You just made GM at your local Chili's, and you got a hot date tonight with Employee of the Month at store aisle 67. And you do not want to go home alone. Luckily for you, we got 3 hot cars here for you. Corvette, C8 with a Z51 package, BMW M2, and a Ford Mustang Dark Horse. In this video, we're going to take them on track with our skilled professional race car driver, Britt Casey Jr., who was the IMSA TCR National Champion in 2019, and he's only gotten faster. We're gonna take this on the dyno at URW Automotive to show you who makes the most power and why. And we're gonna take this in the shop and detail all these exotic bodies for you to help make the best decision of your life. So let's talk dollars and cents. You've moved past the Golf Rs, the Type Rs, and the Supers in the world, and you're ready for this. Well, luckily, all 3 of these cars start at about $67,000 base price. But you're not a base price guy. You didn't sell all these 64-ounce porterhouses at Chili's to go for that. You want them fully loaded. Well, luckily, all these cars are. This car, the M2 I'm sitting in, is around $80,000. The Dark Horse is also about $80,000 as tested. And the C8 is a paltry $76,000, so that's kind of the value proposition here. Also, it's probably the best value on the used market currently as it stands. But let's talk about the exterior briefly. All 3 of these cars are indicative of the era they're designed in. They're not classically beautiful. Let's start with the M2. BMW is in their, what I like to call the lump in the throat generation, where it's just kind of awkward. Everybody talks about the styling, and it's kind of a downer. Luckily, you're gonna either love it or hate it, and there's a lot to like about it. The C8 is a blessing and a curse as well. It's my first supercar look. And when you look at some angles, you're like, wow, that looks great. And then when you look at things like the back, there's all these lines and geometries. It's just kind of awkward. Then you get to the tried and true Mustang, you're like, wow, that really looks like a Mustang. That's because it's built on a 2015 era body in white, so there's not a lot they could do to change it. It still looks like an evolution of the Mustang. It is probably the most timeless of the 3, but that's all I'm gonna say about the exterior because, you know what? You got more taste than I do. Let's talk about the interior spaces of these cars because that's where you're gonna live, and this is where your date's gonna spend most of their time. Let's start with the M2. Build quality wise, well, it doesn't look all that impressive. This is built on one of the lower trim level BMW products. It is very solid. There's no squeaks or rattles in here. Everything feels like it has a purpose. It's probably the most purpose-built, no BS interior of the 3. This has a small back seat and a very usable trunk. However, they use the threaded screen that is a part of basically every single BMW product, so it looks very generic in that way. This comes with a manual transmission and a tremendous automatic. Usability is very good, and visibility is also a highlight of this car. The audio system is also the best in the bunch, and you can thank that for having some premium roots inside this car. The Harman Kardon will definitely please you. The other things to talk about is these optional BMW M seats, which have a bolster that is like steel. It feels like a concussive grenade that hits your genitals if you get in the wrong way, so you have to be careful with that. Other than that, most of the electronics in here is very, very stable. It's probably the most mature of the bunch. BMW's software and mobile app is light years ahead of the other 2 brands. All right, let's talk about the C8. This is a 1LT, so it is not fully loaded. This was provided by C8 Performance in Crystal Lake, Illinois, the ultimate source for all your C8 needs. The interior space is the most sports car of the bunch because it is built on a sports car architecture. It's a 2-seater, no back seats. It's got a frunk and a trunk, so usability may not be as good as the Mustang and the BMW. However, you feel much more connected in the car. Visibility, however, is quite a bit worse than the other 2 cars, but you can't have everything. The interior wraps around the driver, and although you could argue this pre-refresh version feels a bit dated with its button layout and all that, and the slower software for their dual screens, it definitely makes you feel a bit more special than the M2. You can also remove the roof, so you can go full T-top experience if you want to relive your 80s moments. It definitely feels very solid as well. It doesn't have a lot of creaks and rattles, and the audio system is also pretty good. But overall, this only comes in an automatic version, unlike the M2 and the Mustang, so you have to live with that sacrifice. Last car of the bunch, the Mustang Dark Horse. It's got the forward-facing pony, black accents. It's everything you want from a Mustang, including a very usable interior. While it doesn't have the largest rear seats or the trunk compared to the M2, you can still fit your date's kids in the back when you're going out tonight. The interior space is a complete mixed bag. While it has probably the best seats of the bunch because they are super soft on daily driving, they hold you in on the track and you don't sweat your ass off in them. The rest of the interior feels like it was done do it on a dime. You see the mold release in the lower half of the plastics. It feels like they cheaped out in every single corner of this. And for a $30,000 Mustang, not a big deal. But when you're paying upwards of $80,000 and comparing it to the other two cars, you definitely notice it, including the audio system. It sounds like they spent about $20 on all the speakers in here. It's definitely a low light, but luckily you're going to be listening to that sweet V8 noise most of the time. It also comes with probably the most tremendous manual transmission and shift knob of cars in this segment. It's something that takes you back in time where you felt like you were engaged in a car. While this has the bandwagoning dual screens and the Unreal Engine so you can look at animations, most of the software does work. While there is some lag, you do feel a very good connection to this car overall. Now it's time to take this into the shop where Jack's going to hit you with all the highlights and technicalities.
All right, we're in the shop with all three of these cars. And as we talked about in the beginning of this video, these cars can be had both new and on the used market. Now, let's start with the two cars that are the most similar, the Mustang Dark Horse and the BMW M2. Starting with the Mustang. Just like the M2, it is a McPherson strut front car. It is a multi-link rear, and both of these are based on more regular passenger cars versus the C8. The Mustang is the heaviest car here and built on the cheapest architecture. This thing comes in at just under 4,000 pounds as a 54 front, 46 rear weight distribution, where the M2 is 52 front. So it's a little better in that regards. And that car is also lighter. The M2 comes in at 3,800 pounds. Both cars use some aluminum, though in the case of the Mustang, it's mostly steel.
It's been passed down from generation to generation.
Yes. This is the S650 platform, and it is very similar to the S550. Something I'm going to say about all three of these cars, and it's going to come up in the drive section of this, and just the realities of these cars, is they're all highly digital. The S650 essentially modernized the S550, so you get fake engine noise, like in all three of these cars. You have an electronic brake booster. This car and the BMW both use basically brake-by-wire, or EBB by Continental. The C8 uses a electronic brake booster by Bosch, or the iBooster setup. All of them have a digitally augmented brake pedal. They all have active exhausts as well. When it comes to the Mustang, you get MR dampers, magnetic ride dampers, and when you go to the handling package, like this car has, it gets lowered. It gets camber plates, so you get full alignment capability, which in a strut car is very, very neat. And of course, you get higher spring rates with the handling package as well. You also get coolers, which come standard in the Dark Horse, though I would argue the cooling in this car is not quite as proficient as the M2 or the C8, and you get a more traditional mechanical differential, a Torsen. This car comes with the handling package tires. Ford will not let us equal out the playing field for the video when it comes to tires. So this is on an ultra sticky 180 tread wear track day
cheater tire.
It's 180 tread wear, and they are massive. 305 front, 315 rear. So this is the biggest car or heaviest car by far, and it also has the biggest tires. This car makes 500 horsepower and just under 420 foot-pounds of torque. It revs over 7,000 RPM, and it's an NA V8, and you get a manual gearbox, though you can nerf yourself and get a 10-speed auto if you really want. This car gets unique connecting rods and camshafts versus the regular Mustang GT50, and it gets a unique windage tray and a different durability cycle than, say, the regular Mustang GT.
Is this a Ford Performance product?
It is not, though it does get some Ford DNA from the Ford Performance.
Okay, all right.
So let's talk about the M2 next. BMW M2 does have some sophistication compared to the Mustang. It is on sports car CLAR, strut front, multi-link rear. You get either a 8-speed auto from ZF, which is what we have, arguably, honestly,
One of the best.
the best automatic
torque-converted
gearbox.
automatics.
Or a 6-speed manual. You get a clutch-based rear diff, adaptive dampers, a million different drive modes. It has a different approach to the Ford. Ford doesn't let you reprogram brake pedal feel. BMW lets you reprogram everything, multi-stage traction control, and it is a big car when it comes to tires as well. I think it's like a 275 or 285 front, 285 or 295 rear. Big tires. It comes on BMW's specific Michelin compound. While it says Pilot 4S, it is slightly stickier than what you get on a traditional shelf. This car is very hard on its consumables. Big brakes, not quite as big as the Mustang, and it gets a one-piston rear caliper as well.
In BMW fashion.
BMW fashion. Though this thing is powered by the S58, a closed deck, variable oil pump, twin turbo,
Probably one of the best
inline six
production engines in the world right now for the price.
Yeah, the last car of this bunch is arguably the only true dedicated sports car. It is a 2-seater. It is the C8 generation Corvette Z51 with 1LT package and no other options. This car was provided to us by C8 Performance, a sister shop to both URW and Limit Plus One. In the future, we'll be doing a build series on a C8 with them where you're going to see how we build one of these cars out. What you need to know is it is the only car with double wishbones. It is the only car with ride height adjustment. You can actually corner balance this car if you have the time and bravery. It has a dedicated 3-degree track alignment, which is what GM suggests out of the box. And it's the only car with no back seats and a mid-engine. It's also all aluminum composite. It's the most
real sports car for the cheapest price out of all three of these cars, which makes absolutely no sense. And putting that in perspective of where we looked at this car when it first came out, we're like, it's kind of nerf. And now you look at how expensive sports cars are and what you get here.
Yeah,
it's like you really. I mean, of course, there's problems with it, but I mean, it's pretty amazing compared to this.
This is more expensive. As tested.
And this is like a dinosaur.
Yeah, this is an $80,000 car that we're under. So when it comes to the C8's drivetrain, sadly, unlike the other two cars, you can't get it as a manual. It only comes with a transaxle 8-speed dual clutch from Tremec. It gets an E-diff when you get the Z51 car. It can have MR dampers, though this car does not have that. And it gets a dry sump LT2, which supposedly makes 495 horsepower and somewhere around the same amount of, or similar torque. It's a pushrod V8. In the case of the Dark Horse, it's dual overhead cam. And we've talked about this car ad nauseum. It is also technically the only car that makes actual downforce at a number you'll never see at a real racetrack. GM's claiming 400 pounds of downforce at VMAX at a racetrack.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
But it doesn't generate lift.
Yeah, it's more
the Dark Horse also claims it generates some level of downforce, which really means no lift.
The car's just lifting off the ground from the heaving anyway.
And the BMW M2, they don't really talk about downforce at all, but they're Germans and they don't give us technical information. All right, now let's talk about the dyno part of this.
Okay.
All of these cars are run on the same dyno at the same time at C8 Performance URW Limit Plus One. It is a Mustang dyno. We made sure the dynos are calibrated correctly, so the peak number isn't what's so important. What actually matters is how they compare to one another, and it was an annihilation. Somehow the BMW M2 automatic makes 490 wheel horsepower and basically the same amount of torque. The next one in the horsepower and torque technically was the Mustang. It made like 470, so 20 less horsepower than the M2. It made like 90 less foot-pounds of torque than the M2, and the Corvette made like 467 is what it peaked at, and more torque than the Mustang. So the M2 weighs less than the Mustang and makes a lot more power.
And I have to add one thing in there. Those static numbers are one thing, but to put this in context, the M2 not only makes the best peak horsepower, but it also delivers the most consistent horsepower because of its thermal capacity. The power stays as consistent lap after lap the more heat you put into it. Where the Mustang, based on our experience already, it has a pretty good horsepower number, and it seems like the more heat you get into it, the more it's pulling timing or power out of it. So the M2 is really incredible here, and the C8 is somewhere in between.
Yeah,
the thermal management's
C8
good.
Technically is the best oiling system. This is the only dry sump car. It does have coolers, but it just does not make the power of the S58. So with that, let's go take these for a drive around Autobahn Country Club South, Mark.
I can't wait.
The king of Bowling Green.
Mr. Corvette back in action.
C8 Z51 1LZ or 1LT, forgive me.
All the numbers and letters.
No MR, but we wanted to demonstrate what was possible with literally the cheapest track setup Corvette you can buy. And for, you know, in the mid-70s new, in the 50s used, you can really accomplish a lot of car for your dollar.
Yeah, and you know what a difference it makes having tires, a track alignment in this car, and the ability to actually do that. I mean, it's pretty incredible, dude. I mean, compared to where this is bone stock when it's in like nursing home spec, this is a hell of a car for the money, honestly. And I'm not even Mr. Corvette. This is pretty amazing.
No, so I mean, this is a car we've driven quite a few times, most recently at Coda for the ZR1 launch. What I'm going to say is this is a very, very easy car to drive. Honestly, the easiest car out of all of them. It's the most nimble feeling. Yes, it's got persistent mid-corner understeer. By design, they wanted to keep this really, really safe. But because of all the weights in the back and because it's got that mild push baked into it, it's forgiving to drive. It gets in and out of corners pretty well. You can trail brake this car in pretty decently, to be honest. And I don't know, man.
It's by far probably the most comfortable type of sports car you can possibly buy. Mid-engine, you know, aluminum body. I mean, it still maintains to be the value car with a naturally aspirated V8.
Yes.
I mean,
and a pretty good dual clutch.
Yeah, and honestly, man, this car is so impressive. If you're looking to track this thing, all you have to do is the very minimal stuff that's set up on this car, which is basically no cost other than tires.
Exactly. All right, Mark, with that, let's head in the M2, sir.
Sounds good. Oh, yeah. I'm feeling spicy, Jack.
Made in Mexico, S58, BMW M2, Mark.
Yeah, I set my sombrero aside, put my racing helmet on today. This car is loose everywhere. It's loose in the front, loose in the back, like like my rectum is today. I'm a little bit under the weather. Perfect day to be driving a fast car on track. So let's get right into this. We just got out of the Corvette, and I know we're going to be driving the Dark Horse. This car feels so digital. I mean, if you just turned off the engine, you'd think it's an electric car. There's nothing felt through the steering. You feel nothing through the back or the front. You're just basically like, okay, I think I'm oversteering. I better correct. I better plan for it. The brake pedal feel is all digital. Basically, the entire car is a digital feedback loop.
But it is incredible what this car can do, yes. Particularly for the money. From a dig, I'm sure the C8 would be faster than this, just given its traction advantage.
Yeah.
But if your goal is to go highway racing or see a really big number on a racetrack, this drivetrain, I know it's a joke on this channel, but you know, B58 relative is so potent and clearly so underrated power-wise. There's torque everywhere. This ZF 8-speed, you know, it's the only torque converted auto in this group. It's perfectly mated to this engine. You know, my own money, I'd probably buy this as a manual, but I don't fault anyone for picking this as an auto. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this car is it still has a manual for at least for right now. For me personally, I think in isolation, and I talked to Britt about this, in isolation, if you just drove this car on track and you handed the keys to somebody and you hadn't driven anything else recently, you'd be like, holy shit, this thing is incredible. But when you put it back to back with cars that have more feel to it, you really can see the deficiencies of where this is a great street car, and there's, even on track, it has amazing thermal overhead. You're never going to overheat this car. It doesn't feel like it's pulling time.
I almost guarantee it is the best cooling out of the bunch.
Yeah, it's super consistent. Like, you don't have to play guessing games with it lap over lap, but it definitely struggles compared to the other cars in terms of fun to drive. This to me, you know, instantly becomes like one of the most amazing street cars of the group because it's more do everything. But
it's a real car. Fundamentally, yeah. This is a real car.
Yeah, but this doesn't. Like, this is a car I'm gonna get off track and park and forget about, not because it's not fast, but just because it's not very engaging to drive at the limit, especially.
Unless you love sideways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so really, I guess that we're gonna sum that up. Let's get into the Dark Horse, Jack. I'm gonna let you take me for the spin of my life.
With that forward-facing pony, Mark. Fucking idiot.
I thought where's my supercharger and my multi-matic dampers you promised me?
Well, Mark, Mustang Dark Horse, the only manual in this test. And while I don't love the clutch pedal, I think this is one of the best feeling manual gearboxes sold, period. And I think it adds a level of character and charisma to this car that's largely absent from the other vehicles in this test. We've done quite a few Dark Horse videos at this point, so we refresh what's both good and bad about this car. Steering wise, it has the best steering weight out of the bunch, but probably not the best steering feel, if I'm gonna be honest. It's not terrible, but it's nowhere as dainty, and you can't do the mid-corner corrections you can do in something like a C8. Gearbox, again, very, very good. Drivetrain, no, not as maybe clinically as efficient as the LT2 or the S58, but it has so much character. And again, there's nothing like this on the market anymore. Camaro's dead. The Charger Challenger thing's just an abomination.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have this. The balance of the car, it feels soft. As soft as the C8 feels, you know, this feels much, much softer and bigger than the other two cars. It doesn't hide its mass, but it's super neutral. I mean, you can basically trail the car in as I run something over. You can get this car in and out of corners. It has pretty good rear front balance, which is kind of surprising, to be honest, for a traditional Mustang. And it's, man, it has all the deficiencies of modern cars, in that it's not the most connected, but you have a good sense of what the front or rear are doing. You have a pretty good sense of how much grip you have in the front and the rear. The brake pedal, so they moved to EBB for this generation, something I got wrong in our original video. So it is much like the C8 and the M2, technically a brake-by-wire car, and you do definitely notice it. It's a bit over boosted when you get really, really hard on the brakes. Did you have any other final thoughts,
the good thing
Marks?
about this car is, you know, like, you go from the M2 to this is the other kind of like extreme. You actually feel a lot more, despite this. You feel like you're riding on top of this car.
Yeah.
You know, you're constantly feeling you're on top of it. The M2, you feel nothing, right? Like zero. This car, you feel all the body motion, the weight transfer of it. And I wouldn't say it's a good way, but at least you know what the hell's going on in this car. There's a greater sense of like NVH that gets through you, and that's what you kind of want in a performance car. You want a driver's car, something that you're going to enjoy. You want the sensations of the road. The M2 is just basically strips all of it out, and the
It's a
C8,
simulation.
Yeah, exactly. The C8 splits the difference between the two cars, where the C8 definitely, you know, feels like a GT. Out here, thank God, you know, like the good thing is this car has all the American character. And you know, I know a lot of people argued that the C8 kind of got rid of some of that true American character when they went mid-engine. This still feels like a Mustang, like a muscle car with better reflexes on track than the past. So, I mean, they have each individual flavors for each car. That's what I like. They're very different. And I would agree with you. The big transformative part about this car is it actually has an amazing manual gearbox.
All right, Mark. So with that, let's wrap up this video, sir.
All right.
All right, it's now time to talk about lap times, what these cars are like to drive at the absolute limit. I know we briefly spoke about some of the dynamics in the cars with Mark. We're going to expand on that further. Quickly, I'm going to bring this up. Lap times are not everything. You at home behind a desk or behind a phone or behind a TV, it's important to know that you don't drive a lap time, you drive an experience. These are all experience cars. None of them are race cars. When it comes to testing conditions, that's the next variable I have to explain. It was one of the hottest days this year when we did this test. When it comes to the tires, I know we've talked about that already, but I'm gonna bring that up again. Mustang came on a Trofeo RS or R, the factory Dark Horse handling package tire. It is technically the stickiest tire out of this bunch. Neither Ford or BMW would let us change the tires on these cars. The BMW M2 was on the least sticky tire, which makes its lap time even more impressive. Came on a Pilot 4S. Then for the Corvette C8 Z51, which was provided to us by a shop, C8 Performance, came on the Bridgestone Potenza Race. It is a 200 treadwear tire, stickier than the Pilot 4S, but it's more of an endurance tire. We didn't want to over-tire it for this test. They last a long time, but it is technically a less sticky tire than what comes on the Mustang. So with that all out of the way, let's talk about the slowest car here, but not necessarily the worst to drive. The Mustang Dark Horse. It ran a 1:33.3, and let's walk through how it made that lap time, what it was like to drive, and of course, if there was more in the car.
Well, I do think there was more in the car. I think the motor itself sounds great. We were getting, like he kind of prefaced before, the car was pulling timing. You would do one fast lap, so it'd be like out lap, flyer, then halfway through your second flyer, coming down the back straightaway, you lose like half a second. Just the computer manages the power away from the engine. So it is it's definitely for heat, for sure. It's temperature related.
It's funny because the conditions we ran this test in for the Dark Horse were not optimal for engine, because in the past you've driven this car, it never pulled timing once before.
Right.
But probably well over 100 degrees ambient on the track. It is understandable, but it was optimal for tires that day when it came to tire temp. So what's the balance like of the car though, driving wise? Steering feel, braking, chassis balance front and rear?
Yeah, I actually liked the way that the car drove while in the throttle, if that makes sense. So you could get in the power pretty early and just kind of get the rear to kind of set, and then from there kind of gauge your stability of the car on corner exit. So that was, I think, from all the YouTube videos you see of these cars like slapping into curbs and things like that. I didn't really see that as
It's a very stable car.
It was very stable. Yeah, it was like total opposite of the
memes.
Kind of the memes. Yeah, the memes. I enjoyed the way the car drove on the power. The brakes were great. I always had enough stopping to get the car turned. And I had great steering feel. Like it actually felt pretty mechanical in the steering. It had a lot of feedback, I think.
For an E-Pass car particularly.
Yes, and also that might be because we were on such grippy tires, which I think would have helped the
other cars.
The other cars, yeah.
The BMW M2 is the next car. It was the most powerful car out of the bunch. You saw our dyno figures. It weighed slightly less than the Dark Horse. The Dark Horse is a big, heavy car, and it carried by far the fastest straight speed by like 5 to 7 miles an hour,
Yes.
which is crazy. Faster than the C8, faster than the Dark Horse. But I know we talked off camera. There were some disadvantages to the way the car drove.
Yep, I think the drivability of the Mustang was not present in the M2, even though it was faster. However, I do think
It was a much harder car to drive, the M2.
much harder car to drive. Yes, I do think it was much harder to drive, less connection to the car itself. You're going fast, but like you don't really know how it's happening because you don't really feel anything. You don't get the feedback in the pedal or the steering. Of the three cars, significantly more disconnected with the steering in the BMW on track for sure. It's just like you swing the wheels would turn aggressively, but you just didn't really know where you were with the slip angle or the yaw of the car, and that created really no confidence when trying to get back on the power.
In a vacuum, the M2 it feels like a supercar when it comes to how fast it is. But when you drive next to these other two cars, that's where the lack of connection definitely comes in.
Very.
It is wildly fast. And I do think it's important to bring up, because I'm sure people are typing in the comments already. I confidently believe if you put all of these cars on an equally sticky tire, the M2, at least for one lap, around Autobahn South would be probably potentially the fastest car, just because of the straight line speed.
I agree. I think just having stickier tires also might improve the sensation of what you're feeling in the seat, like literally with your butt as a driver. That's kind of all you have in terms of knowing.
Because it's also brake-by-wire, so the
Right.
pedal's not, the steering's dead.
And if you had grippier tires, maybe you'd be able to feel that sort of lateral load change better. But I don't think we had it on these tires too. So it kind of made the issue worse.
Again, factory tire that BMW designed with this car. So the fastest car was a Corvette C8 Z51 non-MR, again, provided by a local shop. How did that car feel versus the other two? Only double wishbone car, only mid-engine car, only technically dedicated sports car. What was that vehicle like to drive balance-wise and sort of sensation?
It was the most balanced. I think it was the most logical to drive. When I was doing inputs, the braking, the steering, the throttle, I knew what I was going to get, and it never changed. It was super consistent of a car to drive. It didn't have all the straight line speed. It didn't have the best braking power, but it had the most control and the most consistency of all three. And I really enjoyed it. If you want to learn how to drive a Ferrari for $58,000, this is your car for sure. And it's pretty incredible to think about the price of them. And what I just drove yesterday, that tire didn't fade, which is great. I think that's a good thing for a track day. Great tire in general. But I think the handling is, for the base Corvette, really, really good, and people will learn a lot.
Walk me through the grip balance of the car. So something that we both talked about off camera, there's a little bit of mid-corner understeer, which is famous in the base C8. So how does the car get in and out of a corner, I guess?
So it has entry understeer. I think it gets maximized at apex, which is, if driving properly, the apex is kind of where the peak load occurs. So that mid corner, right before you pick up the gas, up until that point is you have a slight understeer. It's tame. It's not like you're gonna just drive off track on the entry. It's just kind of lazy. It's not. The Z06 is very sharp on the nose. This one is not. So I think it's a little bit softly sprung, very comfortable for the street.
And you can really get on the gas early out of corner.
So I think, yes, I think the rear grip has a ways to go before you max it out. The car feels great getting on the power, partial or full throttle. It feels really good. And this also, I don't know what the diff is.
E-diff on this car.
It's the same as the Z06? Or?
Different calibration, but basically the same idea.
Yeah, so it feels great. I mean, really, really makes a lot of sense.
So lap times are one thing. From an enjoyability perspective, on the street or on the track, where do you rank your 1, 2, and 3? 1 being the most enjoyable, 3 being the least.
I mean, I think if you really enjoy driving a V8 with a manual, I like manual cars. I drive a manual every day, but
there's nothing else like the Dark Horse left.
That's really Dark Horse. If you're into manuals, the Corvette, I think, is going to be the total package for you. It's the cheapest as well, wasn't it?
So both as tested. So
I don't want to say total package either.
But the way you look at this, any of these cars, I mean, lap time wise, for reference, this base 1LT non-MR Z51 Corvette is faster than supercars from 10 years ago. Legitimately, it's faster than an NSX Type S that you drove, which is very depressing if you love the NSX.
Yeah, understeer for days.
That car, this car as tested is cheaper than the other two if you bought it new. And from a used price perspective, is also the cheapest car. Yep. The Dark Horse and the M2 are essentially the same price on the new and used market.
I think I want to know what I'm feeling. So I would definitely put the M2 as last for most enjoyable for me. I could not really feel anything with it. You could get to a track day and do it for the day, sure. But it was understeer on entry and oversteer on exit. The throttle mapping, I think, was too aggressive, way too aggressive, actually. One of the most aggressive throttle maps I've ever driven. That was the M2. Pretty shocking. But the Corvette, I like mid-engine, but the Mustang is a blast too. I mean, it's kind of a tie between those two, but the M2 is very different in a poor way. I mean, I didn't like it for track use.
So with that, let's wrap up the video. You'll be seeing quite a few other comparison tests we're doing with Britt Casey later this year. You'll be seeing him very shortly. Final thoughts on our C8 Z51, BMW M2, and Mustang Dark Horse comparison test. First off, huge thanks to our title sponsor, Bridgestone Tires. They make videos like this possible. So if you're looking for your own tires for your own car, please take a look at some of their offerings, like the Potenza Races featured in this video, their Ultimate Track Day tire, the RE71 RS, or their Do Everything tire, the Potenza Sport and Potenza Sport All Season. Huge thanks to C8 Performance. They offered us their shop car so we could create a baseline for some of our future C8 content. We're planning on doing a build series with them to show you what's possible with a used C8. And of course, thanks to Autobahn Country Club for giving us a home to make a video like this in the first place. So if you're looking to attend a track day, please take a look at their calendar. If you want to attend a driving program, they have quite a few on offering. They also have great coaching options as well. And if you want to become a member, please take a look at their track membership or their karting membership. So what about the cars? Let's start with the Mustang first. Yes, it is the slowest car out of the bunch, and yes, it has the worst interior out of the bunch. But that does not tell the entire story. If you look at the data, this car actually handles really, really well. It carries a higher mid-corner speed than even the BMW M2, and out of the bunch, it's arguably the most connected. You have a great sense of the front and the rear. You have a really good manual gearbox. You have a very, very charismatic engine. There's really nothing like this left in the world anymore. Again, the big con, though, is how much it costs and the interior space, and that's going to be a deal breaker for some of you. The BMW M2 is another car that we tested, obviously, and that car is dominated by the S58 drivetrain. It creates so much power. It has a higher top speed in the straights than both of these vehicles in this test, but it is also the most disconnected out of all three of these. It was Britt's least favorite to drive, it was mine, and it was Mark's. The reason for it is it almost feels like the things that made this car great as a street vehicle, the NVH team trying to remove that from the driving experience also makes it feel so dead inside. It's a very good street car. It's the most usable car out of the bunch, but if you're looking to drive at the absolute limit, it's definitely lacking in that department. I will bring up, as many of you have as well, based on the data, if this was on a stickier tire like the Potenza Race or even the stickier tire that was on the Dark Horse, this probably was going to be the fastest car out of the bunch. So lastly, the C8 Z51. Yes, it was technically the only dedicated sports car here, and it was on the most sophisticated architecture, composite, largely aluminum, double wishbone, and of course mid-engine. It is a great driving car for the money, and it is a very, very compelling package. You have good dynamics. It blends the charisma of the Mustang with some of the power and precision of the BMW. Really, its only con is it's not the most usable car, being a two-seater sports car. It's not the prettiest car out of the bunch, and it's kind of soft. While it makes it a good street car, there's definitely some edge that's lacking from it and doesn't quite have the total connection that the Mustang has. All three of these cars offer great options. So with that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.